going to be getting into some serious reasoning this afternoon as I welcome our guest to this afternoon's Comfort Zone program, which is actually the 30th edition of the Comfort Zone. And this is a gentleman, I don't know him personally, but I know his family. I knew his father very well. I know his brothers, and I am just going to share with you a bit of a bio as I introduce our guest for this afternoon. His name is Dr. Theodore Ferguson, and he is a leadership educator by choice, it says, a scientist by training, and a former university lecturer and rural and agricultural development consultant by experience. He has worked in and traveled to over 70 countries worldwide, during which time he has taken the opportunity to study humanity and leadership issues across many cultures. On his journey and many other teachings, he learned that one needs so become more, let's take that again. On his journey and over many teachings, he learned that one needs so become more conscious, to become more conscious of the destructive power and influence of the ego, which has a way of emerging and blinding us to our true intentions. His research on leadership started in 1998 and took him to South Africa and throughout the Caribbean. During his time in South Africa, he conceptualized and developed the program Leading from Above the Line. The program and his many published works speak to our innate human goodness and to man's desire to live a moral life in a world that seeks to normalize immorality. Now, there's a lot more that can be said, but I would allow Dr. Theodore Ferguson to share with us whatever it is else that we need to know about him. But at this point in time, the pleasure is mine to welcome and to say good afternoon to Dr. Theodore Ferguson. Good afternoon, Dr. Theodore Ferguson, and welcome to GEM FM and to the topic, to the Comfort Zone in particular.
Well, good afternoon to everybody. Thanks very much for inviting me to join this program. Yes. And I'm looking forward to a very nice discussion this afternoon.
Definitely, and will tell you, I also am looking forward. I've been looking forward to that, because after speaking with your friend Bobby Benjamin and getting, some of the lowdown on you, I know that you do have, something significant to offer to that you can share with us. He is the one who first told me about that philosophy of the above the line, and also I've had conversation with Miss Valerie Gordon, who's been able to tell me a bit about you. But is there anything else that you think that you need to share with us, at this juncture, to get us rolling, to get us started? Anything in particular that you would want to share?
No, I would want to go straight into the discussion.
You want to go straight into the discussion?
Well, yeah, let me answer the questions.
Let you answer the question. Well, to go straight into the discussion, and the first question, let's start at the very beginning. When I was a boy, there was this movie that we children loved, The Sound of Music, and what was the name? Julie Andrews. There was this song, let's start at the very beginning, a very good place to start, and when you sing, when you sing, you begin with ABC. Yeah. When you read, you begin with ABC, and when you sing, you begin with Do Re Mi. So let's start at the ABC and the Do Re Mi. Golf. the start of the journey. What schools did you go to?
Oh, my journey started with Teacher Rose.
Oh, Teacher Rose. Yes, I remember
in primary
Teacher
school
Rose.
in St. John's RC School.
Okay. Oh, you went to RC. I was a RC boy also.
All right. And what a journey that has been.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned my ABCs, and I got introduced to the world of education.
Okay.
By Teacher Rose.
All right.
And she was a very inspiring and a very caring woman.
Yes. Yes.
And she took me through the early stages and slowly handed me over to the other teachers of the time. And I enjoyed primary school. My principal at that time was Mr. Aloysius Williams.
Okay, he was also my principal.
Yeah, and I moved through school and I got to Standard 4. And it seems that I was, let's put it this way, pretty, I won't say brilliant, but I knew a few things.
Okay.
So that's when I wrote my exams to go to secondary school. A year ahead of schedule. I'm not sure it made sense, but that's what I did.
Okay.
And lo and behold, I did pretty well, but I fell short of getting the government scholarship. I think in those days they were only given 12 scholarships for the whole island. And here am I in Standard 4 writing the exam, but I keep teaching to the island. And a group from Grove came forward and offered me a scholarship.
Okay.
It was a sports club.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And that is what kicked me into secondary school.
Okay. So which of the secondary schools did you
GBSS.
Oh, you were a GBSS boy. Okay.
Yes, I won't give you the story. As a good Catholic boy, everybody expected me to go to presentation.
To go to PVC, I know.
But the scholarship was for GBSS.
Okay.
But my father was a very disciplined and a very strong man. I think you know him.
Yes, I do him. I do him very well.
All right, so Mr. Joe, as Grove folks know him, went down to the bishop in St. George's and said, my son has got a scholarship to go to the GBSS, and he's going. He didn't give the bishop a choice. In those days, you had to get permission to go to, if you're a Roman Catholic.
Wow.
Yes, that was what it was like then.
Wow.
And I found myself at the GBSS.
Okay.
A real country boy, very young. And for a while I was lost in St. George's. Because everything was new.
I know.
Everything was new. I had so much to learn. And it was quite a challenge, quite a difficult transition to move from a little rural town, and myself growing up in a very rural place in Guava State. So it was like a whole new world I was introduced to. So I turned out.
Okay.
I gave the story of in secondary school, not being wise to the world, because in those days, most people didn't have radios, we didn't have newspapers and Grove and all that sort of stuff. So a lot of stuff you don't know. And there was a subject called general knowledge.
Yes.
Right? But the questions were not what I knew. It wasn't on the name of the fishes in the river and how to grow a banana plant and how to dig for that and how to hunt for a manitou or how to kill a mongoose and that stuff I grew up with. And there was I having to answer questions that were very foreign.
Okay.
So I was perhaps the only student who had to study for that subject.
Okay.
I had to deliberately try to understand the world. So that was my introduction to the world of knowledge. It's quite interesting.
You know, as you mentioned that, just as an aside, it takes me to a book that I read, and there is supposed to be a relaunch of that book. It's a book that speaks about how the West Indian child is made educationally subnormal according to the British school system. And it really spoke to the kind of questions that people had to, or the students had to deal with for the IQ test, and there were questions that were totally out of the sphere of the cultural background and so.
Culturally inappropriate.
Yes, and because of that, they were labeled as educationally subnormal and had to go to special school, which did not necessarily mean that, they were of low intelligence, and so just what you spoke to there sort of brought that to mind, how you can end up in that situation where based on the kind of the exam, the nature of the exam, you could fail, and you not necessarily don't have the intellectual capacity.
That is so true.
Mm-hmm.
But some of us pull through.
Yeah.
And you had to adjust.
You had to adjust.
Yeah, you had to adjust very quickly.
Absolutely. Yes.
And they'll ask them a question, who was the president of Russia or USSR? Who was the president of countries I never even heard the names of.
Okay.
I know I'm supposed to know what's happening in those countries.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to study.
Mm-hmm.
Things that came natural to folks who grew up in an environment where they had access to newspapers or radios and they had that kind of conversation at home and so on. So you're very disadvantaged.
Okay.
But that is over and above being educated to be a British citizen, a good colonial citizen of Britain. Having to sing God Save the Queen so many times a day and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And my early books were came straight from Buckingham Palace, the Royal Readers.
Mm-hmm.
You might have done the West Indian Readers, but before that we had the Royal Readers.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You mentioned about through Teacher Rose and Mr. Aloysius Williams, and so what would you say? What are some of the, or maybe one or two more important memories that you have from that period? And what would you say, are there any lessons that you would have learned during that period that would have helped to carry you through all of your life's journeys?
Dedication of the teachers. There are teachers who had an interest in the students, and they gave their time during the classroom and outside of the classroom. Mm-hmm. And they took care of us, educated us. And my father so trusted the teachers. Every time I had to change class, he would take me to school and hand me to the teacher and tell the teacher, "You're in charge." No, seriously, I trusted the teachers.
Right.
Right? Yeah. And the teacher, when my father told them that, well, they had no choice, but to make sure I got an education.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were a highly committed group of teachers at that time.
Okay. Yeah. So moving on from GBSS, what happened next?
Well, at GBSS I did pretty well after my initial struggle. I struggled a while. And then things came together. And I got through my O-levels, which was in those days a school certificate. And the first battle of completing school certificate was to make a decision whether I go back to school or whether I go to work. And that was an interesting time because a lot of people around me, including family members, thought I had an education because our concept of education wasn't very high. And I was being told it's time to go out to work and mind the old people, my parents. Of course, I didn't want to do that. Not that I didn't want to take care of the old people, but I just tasted knowledge. I just tasted education. So I was anxious to go back to school, but by then my scholarship had finished.
Okay.
From the group that gave me the scholarship. My parents didn't have money to send me back to school. So we're in a quandary now. What next? But my father was a very wise man. That man we call Mr. Joe. While everybody talking around me and most of them want me to go to work, he called me and he said, let me tell you something. If you want to go back to school, I would, I'm supporting you. But we don't have money to pay fees, and those days they had to pay fees to go to school. He said, but if you could find a way to go, you could go. He said, me and your mother go take care of yourself, don't worry. We go be all right. And I decided I'm going back to school. But I had to get fees. So I went down to the principal one day, take the bus and went down to St. George's and walked into the principal office. Mm-hmm. We call him Sakis. He was Smith, a Bajan headmaster. Mm-hmm. And I walked into his office and I said, sir, I have no money to come to school, but I need to come back to school. I have to come back to school. And I want you to help make that possible. And I remember him sit back in that chair and he laughed. He rocked back and he said, what kind of bold fella you are? And so you want to come back to school. And after he had his belly full of laughter, he said, down and looked at me. Mm-hmm. So you come back to school, I'll go find a way for you. Mm-hmm. And I got an internal scholarship from the GBSS. Okay. So I didn't have to pay fees. Okay. So I was back in school. My parents found a way to give me the uniform and so on. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But I had no books. So for weeks I in the classroom, I have no books. And A-level is a heavy program. Mm-hmm. You need books. I look around me, everybody else has books. Brain started to work. So I wrote a letter. I got the name of a bookshop in London. Mm-hmm. Paul's Bookshop. And I crafted a letter to that bookshop, to Forrest. And I attached my book list saying, I'm at school, I have no books and I need to get some books to go back to school. I have nothing to lose. A few weeks later, boxes of books, brand new with the latest edition, turn up. Yeah? Yeah. Wow, what a story. That's how I got back to, that's how I did A-levels. A-levels, yeah. Okay. Yeah, go ahead. And I got back to secondary school, but I knew that happened, you come alive, Yes. No, you can't play the fool. Yeah, you can't play the fool. Yeah, you have to be. You're self-driven. Yes. And I finished O-levels and I always remember that. Mm-hmm. And we finished O-levels and I'm waiting for scholarship results, because that's only how you can move on now. And the next move is the university. Mm-hmm. And we got news, the first scholarships to be awarded this year. I got that year. Wow. Before they announced everything else. Man, you could imagine the celebration. Wow. I got the Caribbean scholarship. It was the IBM scholarship for agriculture for the Caribbean. Okay. One for the Caribbean. I won it. Okay. And next thing you know, I was on the way to Jamaica where I started my studies. Okay. So that's how I got into university. Right. Wow. So when I hear young people sit back and complain that they can't do this, the parents have money, I say, boy, sometimes if young people have to get up and get in, they have to start using their brain and get some energy, and doors gonna open. Yes. When you really want to get things done, doors open. Yes. Yeah. Well, now, actually, one thing about go ahead. One thing about follow-up to that Falls bookshop. Mm-hmm. Years later, I was able to travel and see the world, and I used to go to London regularly. Mm-hmm. And every time I went to London, I went to Falls bookshop and gave them a sale. they didn't know who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And that was many, many years later.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to return and say thanks in some way.
Mm-hmm.
It became my favorite bookshop in London.
Okay. Okay. So, wow. Well, I mean, we couldn't get off to a better start than that. We couldn't get off.
Well, it has been all of it. The journey of life has always been a very exciting journey.
Yes.
And let me say one thing.
Mm-hmm.
My journey has been with the support of people, the support of the community.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you I did it my way and alone. I know, sir.
Right.
Numerous people
Mm-hmm.
came forward
Okay.
and supported me throughout my life.
Okay.
And I always say I have to give thanks to the
Mm-hmm.
world, to the community,
Mm-hmm.
to the people of Galway State, to the people of Gore, to the people of St. George's.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I went to St. George's Secondary School, I was extremely fortunate. I found myself in the home of a family. I don't know if you know the Pitts. You know the Pitts?
Yes. Oh, very well. Yeah, I knew Dr. Pitt. Yes, very well.
His parents gave me accommodation.
Okay.
And my parents couldn't afford boarding fee.
To pay for boarding, yeah.
And no.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I spent a year with a lady called Miss Michael on Maple Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went over to the Pitts. And I got accommodation and food and everything there. But I have to be thankful. Beautiful things happen. So my life is a life of, because of the support I got from the community, all around, I made it through the system.
Okay. You know, I am listening to you speaking here, and two books published by Grenadians come to mind. By Guelph people, I should say, come to mind.
You're talking about Dakota's book?
Yeah, Dakota's book, which is a very nostalgic book. And
that was my we were together in primary school for a lot of years.
Okay.
And I went on to secondary school just ahead of him.
Okay, yes. And he also went to GDSS. Yeah. But your friend Bobby went to PBC.
Yeah. I didn't know Bobby in Gove, you know.
You didn't know him in Gove? Okay.
And he was older than me, but my father knew him well.
Yeah, very well. Okay.
But Bobby will have to tell you why my father knew him very well.
Okay.
They get well known because either if he well behaved or badly behaved. You know?
Okay.
I'll tell you which one.
I'll get that story from him. The other book is a book called The Energy of War.
Well, that's Knuckles' book now.
And that is Knuckles' book. Yeah. That's Knuckles' book.
I haven't read that yet.
You haven't read that yet?
My copy is in Grenada, but COVID kind of took everything off. But I have to read Knuckles' book.
You have to read Knuckles' book.
Yeah.
Because it takes you back to this, well, it's focused on the sports. And it takes you back to the 40s and thereabout, you know? And takes you through to the Mayday sports and all those guys from St. George's and elsewhere who used to come to ride and do all that kind of stuff in Guelph, with Guelph being that hub of activities, of sporting activities.
Outstanding for sports.
Yes, which
throughout the years.
Yes, throughout the years, you know? Yes.
Unfortunately, I wasn't a sportsman.
You weren't
I was in that league.
You weren't in that league. Well,
now, my brothers played all the sportsmen. It wasn't
Okay. So you went away to study, and you said what was the focus of your study when you went away?
Agriculture. I went to Jamaica first because I wasn't qualified to enter the Faculty of Agriculture at China. So I needed to do physics and chemistry.
Okay.
And I went to Jamaica and I joined what was then the pre-med program. And I spent a year in Jamaica.
Okay.
And then I came on to St. Augustine in '64 to do my degree in agriculture. And that was another exciting journey. Yeah. It wasn't I would say, I was a very disciplined young man. And so I graduated in '67. And sometimes I don't like to say this, but I was the first student from the faculty to get a first class honors in when I graduated in 67.
Okay.
So I think you can say I did fairly well.
You did very well. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So I want to take it back to
go ahead.
I smile. I just put a big smile. All that puts a smile on my face. Because I want to think of the number of young people who are in my primary school class who are not too different from me, who could have done so much with their lives, but the opportunity didn't present themselves or they couldn't organize it. And they never went off to secondary school.
Okay. Yeah.
And there are numerous people I can say. But
they were not as persevering as you were.
Yes, some people tell me that was my luck.
Nah, that's not luck. No, that's not luck. That's not luck. You know?
Yeah.
That's not luck.
So then I go back to Guam and I see some of the guys from my primary school. I said, wow, these are bright people, you know. So, but today, in today's world, most young people have great opportunities to go off to secondary school and to tertiary.
Definitely.
Back in those days, only a few of us
were
able to do that.
Yeah, definitely so. Definitely.
There are very few of us, I would say.
Yeah. So tell me something, Dr. Ferguson. During those times, as I remember it, most people who were going off to to university to do degrees and so were doing universities, were doing degrees either to become a doctor or to become a lawyer. And so how did you hit on agriculture? That wasn't the norm in that during that time. I mean, and what would have made you prefer to go for agriculture than what was the standard at the time?
I had a love for the biological sciences.
Okay.
I had a love for geography.
Okay.
I had a love for things of nature. And I grew up in Gove on the land. And my father also had land in Calliste. Much bananas I drove on this head. You know what nutmeg I carry on this head of mine?
Right.
It didn't damage the brain. Serious load. That's another story. And so I had that interest, and I decided to go for agriculture. But here again, a lot of people were very upset with me. I remember an uncle of mine telling me, boy, after your father worked so hard to mine you, you're going to do agriculture?
Yes, I could imagine that. That's why I asked you that question, because that was not the norm during that period.
Plenty pressure.
Yeah.
But that's what I wanted to do. And my father, I say he's a wise man, he said, boy, if you want to do agriculture, I'm behind you, go. And I went and do, when I went to Jamaica, I told you I started off in the pre-med class. And they wanted to keep me in the medical faculty. Everybody said, where you going? I said, I didn't come here to do medicine. I come here just to get organized to do agriculture. And I came from the St. Augustine.
Okay.
Eh?
Wow. Interesting story. Yeah. So from there, it says that you are before I ask you that, when last have you been back to Guelph?
I am regularly in Guelph at least once, 2 or 3 times a year.
Oh, really? Yeah.
When I come to Guelph, I go by my brother in
Mount Nesbitt.
Mount Nesbitt.
Yeah,
sit out there, have fun,
producing some nice
water, chill out.
Yeah, man, producing some nice honey up there too.
Right. And I go home, come back to home.
Right. Wonderful.
And I walk through Guelph once or twice while I'm there. That's it.
Yeah.
And most of the people that I knew as a kid, a lot of them no longer alive.
Yeah, they're no longer there, right?
And my friends are all migrated. They're some other part of the world.
Yes.
My good buddy, my teacher, Carla Green, is one of the guys I
was one of the one of the.
He taught me.
He taught. Okay.
In primary school, he and his wife.
Okay.
And when I finished secondary school, I spent a few months teaching, or 9 months teaching in St. John's IRC.
Okay.
I came back to War and taught.
Okay.
For a while, primary school.
Okay.
Then I went off to university.
Okay. So tell us, it says that you're a scientist by training, and so what were the so what are the particulars of your scientific training in agriculture?
Well, agriculture, to do a degree in agricultural science is one of the most scientific subjects. You cover all the scientific disciplines, because agriculture is a very broad subject. So you spend a lot of time doing the biological sciences, you do the physical sciences, you do the chemical sciences, you do the earth sciences, you do a bit of engineering, and then you do the social studies and all of that. And that's a deep grounding. But after I completed my bachelor's degree, I did something that I'm getting a lot of people now, because I had an opportunity to go to do my postgraduate studies, my PhD in other universities overseas. But I made the crazy decision of saying I'm going to do my studies in St. Augustine.
Yeah.
I turned down opportunities overseas, which didn't make sense to most people.
Yeah.
So I stayed on in St. Augustine.
Okay.
And did my PhD.
Okay. Yeah. But you keep going beside the norm all through your life. That seemed to be a penchant of yours.
Well, it depends on. I thought that education was more relevant to the life I want to live.
Okay.
And I wanted to focus my studies on the tropics.
Okay.
I didn't want a temperate education.
Okay.
So I stayed. I missed going to McGill University because I was supposed to go and pick up a scholarship there. I didn't go. And I have no regrets. So I completed that. And then strange things happened. I accepted a job in Tanzania. And I was supposed to go there to teach in the Faculty of Agriculture. And so my folks at the University of the West Indies said, "You're not going anywhere, We need you here." So I couldn't go. I didn't go to Tanzania.
Okay.
And I was offered a job at the university here.
Okay.
And started doing research. Then I found my way into Barbados on the campus there, heading as part of the agricultural unit there.
Okay.
And that was the time we were transitioning from the Faculty of Agriculture to CARDI. Heard of CARDI?
Yes, CARDI.
Agricultural Research Institute.
Yes, I've heard of. Yeah, I know.
Right. So we were transitioning to that. And I left the faculty and I went to the Caribbean Development Bank to do development banking.
Okay.
And I spent 3 years with the bank. That was nice. You had a lot of status. You had a diplomatic passport. You have duty-free privileges, and you could use your heavyweight position as a traveler around the Caribbean. But that introduced me to the Caribbean from a different point of view, because I got a chance to meet politicians, to really meet politicians and talk to politicians. Only do these development projects, they all come out of the Prime Minister's office. I won't comment on that experience further. Several years, quite an experience.
I could well imagine.
And
the fact that you wouldn't comment,
no,
I could well imagine.
it's quite an experience.
But
it gave me an opportunity to work with senior politicians all over the region. But I got bored, very bored with the job. It wasn't what I wanted to do. So I left the bank. And I went back to the university.
Okay.
The stress of a lot of people again, moving against the tide now.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to go backward, they say, right?
Yeah, because I mean, many people that kind of
status. That's a premier job.
Yes, that kind of status position that you speak about there, working in that sector, rubbing shoulders.
It's a nice job, well paid.
Everything nice. A nice cushy job, yeah.
Yeah.
You just had to.
But I wanted to go back to interfere, to talk to students, to teach. And even though I had to accept a massive cut in my salary, I came back to Sunday State.
Okay.
I had to give up my diplomatic passport and all the other niceties. But that didn't help.
Wow.
And I started lecturing at the university, something I truly enjoyed doing for a lot of years.
Wow. That's another interesting story.
Yeah.
Dr. Ferguson, you're just blowing me away here this afternoon. I'm telling you. You just.
You can't abbreviate the story, can't tell that. A whole lot of stories.
No, but these things are very unusual in people. You find that there is a tendency among our people and our academic elite, to want to gravitate more to these decision-making circles where all of the pucks are and so on, rather than to be among, to be molding and nurturing people.
I learned as a young kid, I didn't know then, to follow your heart.
But you got a big heart.
Yeah, follow your heart.
Yeah, you got a big heart, because that's not enough.
And I had a ball teacher. I trained a lot of students. I had great fun with my graduate program, but I trained a lot of graduate students.
Okay.
I trained about 50 students for their PhDs and their master's degrees while at St. Augustine. But then eventually I got I was ready for a change.
Okay.
And that is when I started to see a way out, looking for a way out.
Okay.
And I started a unit called the Continuing Education Program in Agricultural Technology as a self-financing unit, together with some other very, very supportive colleagues. And that became quite a success in that we were able to go out and raise money to run a unit to train farmers and other technocrats around the Caribbean, literally every Caribbean island. And that became quite a success.
So what were your sources of funding then? Who would have been willing to contribute to a program like that outside of the mainstream educational institution?
You see, little successes lead to little successes to get attention. People begin to notice. And if you are successful, people want to be associated. So they give you more money. And the program grew.
Okay.
And it became a massive program within the university.
Okay.
And a successful program.
Okay.
And that's another story for a book another time.
Okay.
But eventually, that is when I started to explore the business of leadership development.
Okay.
And when I was head of my department, my technical department, crop science, I found myself spending a lot of time disciplining people, big men and big women, highly educated, but who were behaving like children. And I couldn't, that troubled me for a while. How can human beings who are well educated be so irresponsible? And I started telling myself there must be a better way to do that. And when I got permission from the university to start the new unit. And that gave me an opportunity to begin to experiment with new ways of, I use the word managing people, but it's really about leading people. Mm-hmm. And the element of leading from above the line started to come together at that time.
Okay.
All right? And we built a very productive little unit at the university, in which we had a small number of people, up to about 20, who was the most highly productive group of people I ever worked with. Because we tried some new things. We tried to build an organization on the basis of trust. It worked. But the time came for me to leave, because the world was a bigger place for me. And eventually I left the unit, left the university, and I went into full-time consulting. A company I established called Calliste Consultants.
What consultants?
Calliste.
Okay.
And things got a little interesting. We became one of the more prominent consultancy groups in the Caribbean very quickly. And to the point where people say, well, you can't get all the jobs, we give you the job the last time, we had to look for others. So we were delivered. And we started to look outside of Trinidad, outside of the Caribbean to work. And that's a bold idea, because companies tend to be come to us from North America, they come to us to work. We decided that we're going to build a company and go out into the world and sell our services. And after looking around to different places in the world, in Washington, D.C., we looked at Brussels. We eventually agreed to go to South Africa, to go to see if we can lend a help to the Mandela, who was just leading his new government. And my team, we went to South Africa as pioneers and tried to build a business in South Africa as consultants. But that turned out to be a disaster.
Okay.
We thought we would have been seen and recognized in South Africa as knowledgeable people who can make a contribution. Unfortunately, South Africa wasn't ready for us.
Wasn't ready for that at that juncture.
At that time, knowledge was seen as valuable when it comes out of the head of a white person's head, not a black person's. All those things were shockers for us. And to summarize that, we lost our shirt, South Africa. I had to carry a lot of blame for that loss. It was a tough ride going to South Africa. But out of that came a good. Something like in South Africa led me to start asking this question: how can we solve the human problem of South Africa? How can we solve the human challenge? It's a human challenge. And it's a massive challenge. What we call problems in the Caribbean are minor problems compared to the problems they have in South Africa. And then that started me thinking. And I got so deep into my thoughts that everything else became secondary. And that is when I went into a new world. I removed myself from society, became a recluse.
Okay.
For a year and a half.
Okay.
Living in a community, there's a white community where nobody spoke to me because I was black. But it gave me the space I needed to think. And there we started our leadership laboratories to research and discuss some of the ideas I had in my head. And after a little while, I found ourselves doing a similar thing in a second city. That was a city called Pietermaritzburg. And then I went to Johannesburg. And my laboratory was just human beings pulled from the South African environment. People who didn't know me, but who volunteered and come to hear me talk.
Okay.
And I was able to keep them. And the laboratory ran for a while. But for the first year and a half, I lived like a hermit.
Okay. Wow.
And it was some of the best days of my life, even though I had given up all the physical luxuries of life. But that's another story.
That's another story.
That's another story.
There's so many stories inside of this story. There's so many stories inside of these stories, Dr. Ferguson.
Yeah, well, we can't go over them.
I know we can't cover all of them today.
But I didn't give you my mealybug story in Grenada.
Your mealybug story? Oh well, yeah.
I was brought to Grenada to help solve the mealybug problem.
You will have to tell me about that one.
I was the manager of the mealybug control program in Grenada.
Okay.
But that's another story.
Mm-hmm.
It has some
intricacies.
Huh?
That's some intricacies.
That is how Valerie ended up working with me.
Okay.
She was my assistant when I went to Grenada.
All right. Yeah.
To do that project.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, out of that South African experience emerged this philosophy which I call leading from above the line.
Leading from above the line.
And from the time the philosophy came out to the notice of the other members of the laboratory, people started telling me this is special, this is unique. And we have to take it to high levels.
Okay.
And somehow South Africa heard about what I was doing. And I got invited to do training programs.
Okay.
With some sizable companies in South Africa. I got invited to train in both the public service and the private service. And I found myself deep into training. And I brought on board a colleague of mine, Dr. Clark, who he's back in the Caribbean now. And we started a training program. It was quite a success in South Africa. And it involved training, we also trained politicians in South Africa.
Okay.
And a whole host of other things. And then from South Africa, the word spread and we found a way in Malawi and we started training, and there were other countries that are in Africa expressed interest. But then the question came away, what about the Caribbean? Mm-hmm. So I came back to the Caribbean and we introduced the program to the Caribbean, first in Trinidad and Tobago. And we landed some quick clients and some big clients, and we were training in quick time all over the Caribbean. We had some significant clients in Barbados, in Trinidad, and that training in Jamaica, and all the Caribbean islands. And that training included training for the United Nations, we trained the staff. And then I started training for governments, government cabinets. I trained the cabinet of Grenada, I trained the cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago, I trained all the senior public servants. But then something happened that caused me to start taking stock. Because you get tied up now in a corporate world and you start to build an organization where you have a lot of staff and then after a while it becomes a matter of earning money to pay staff rather than earning money to do the job that you want to do, to service society. Mm-hmm. So somewhere along the line, I took a decision. By then, I'd moved my residence back to Trinidad. I called my staff and I took a decision that I will no longer be training for the corporate world. I'll no longer be training to earn fees. And everybody looked at me and wondered if I went mad. And the question was, how are we going to live? And I have great faith in the universe. Great faith. The universe provided one of my staff with jobs. And I stopped collecting any stopped taking any earnings from my training. Set up an NGO, and everything we earn now goes into our NGO. NGO is to service the community and to do the training for people who cannot afford it. And that's where I am at the moment. So I now train for the community. I don't take any personal fees. So,
Dr. Ferguson, as you've come to that, I want to go back, seeing that we're speaking about training and preparation and so. How much do you find? Because you spoke about you going along and doing your own program outside of the mainstream institution agenda. And how relevant do you find much of the education that is delivered by some of our institutions to the practical development of our countries and our region?
you're asking a very political question.
Oh man, that's not my intention. That's not my intention. Because generally speaking, you get these conversations all the time. And when we look at where we are today, in terms of the potential that we have, the human potential, and in terms of the assets that we have, we're not big countries, but we have some significant assets that's not adequately developed or developed in a manner that really lends itself to taking care of the people's needs and satisfying our development agenda.
I want to make an observation.
Yes, sir.
Everybody complains about the poor leadership that we have.
Mm.
Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah, my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Everybody complains about the poor leadership that we have throughout the Caribbean.
Okay.
Everybody recognizes that we need better leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, name an institution that is focused on developing leaders, offering leadership training. See, name one.
I can't. And as you rightly say, you hear that lamentation all the time.
All the time.
About the need for leaders. But
and some institutions pretend to be doing it.
Okay.
They offer training courses on with leadership in the title, but they're not anything but management courses.
Okay.
And that is where we differentiate ourselves. And we've been trying to promote and to get leadership training going. I've been trying to get an institute, an international institute, established in the Caribbean. We came, and I thought it was pretty close to doing it in Grenada. When then Hurricane Ivan came in and everything got.
And just, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
I came very close to doing it in Trinidad.
Okay.
When there was a government that was very anxious to support it.
Okay.
And that hit a roadblock. That's another story that has written separated. And I still have not been able to get such an institution established. The closest we have come to getting it done is with the Arthur Lockyer Graduate School of Business in Trinidad. they adopted our program and we started working together. But they're in trouble now because COVID they have had to, what they call, they had to boil down like Bati, you know. 'Cause you can't do the thing that they used to do.
I know.
The way they're structured. If the money is not flowing, they can't do what they want to do. But, so I'm still looking for a way to get an institution developed in the Caribbean that can focus on leadership development.
Okay.
Because I can say comfortably that none of the institutions we have in the Caribbean have that focus, even though they may have the name in the title.
Okay.
That I don't know if I'll ever get it done.
I know. Well.
But I'll give it a shot. I'll continue to try to give it a shot.
Yeah. Well, given the stories that you've shared here and how you have gotten around or gotten over so many roadblocks and so many stumbling blocks, I have no doubt that you will accomplish it eventually.
You never know when the door will open.
Yes,
somebody listening to this program now,
yes,
might be the one who to open the door.
You never know.
Yeah.
But
the need is there.
Okay. Yeah, definitely so. So at all levels.
Let me tell you, take a quick word to tell a little bit about the program.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, if you can tell us a little bit more about it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The program is about helping human beings to become more responsible and to accept that responsibility for themselves and their development, to become more moral beings. You see, as human beings, we all have a little voice in us that talks to us. Anytime we do something that you shouldn't be doing, that voice talks to you. And you get a sense of guilt. But sometimes we lose awareness of that. And we continue to do things that we know wrong, but we do it because they say that's the only way we can survive. And when you do things that are right, then you're above the line. That's where the line comes in. That's the moral line. But when you behave and you do things that you know are wrong, you're below the moral line. So the whole idea is to build human beings such that they can live lives that are above the moral line. And that is how we're going to address a lot of the issue of the antisocial behavior and the corruption and so on. And corruption is rampant.
Could you say that again, please?
Corruption is rampant. I can repeat it 100 times.
And you're speaking about where would you say that corruption is rampant?
Throughout the society.
Okay.
From the top to the bottom.
Yeah.
It becomes culture.
Have you found that to be the case in our Caribbean region?
Of course.
Okay.
I was doing a radio interview in Malawi sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody asked me a similar question about corruption. And when I said that, it angered a certain president. You know, I got a call from the president?
You did.
Threatening to throw me out of the country.
Yes, because down there they're very guilty.
It's only the guilty Johnson on this area. If you're not guilty, you have no reason to jump.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Wow.
And we kind of take the corruption for granted.
Dr. Ferguson, you can say that again. You can say
I'm
that again.
I'm not a politician.
I know you're not a politician, but you can say that
I've never
again.
been a politician.
Yes, but you can say that again. I'm telling you, based on experiences that that we're having. In my view, yeah,
we must never get comfortable with corruption. It doesn't have to be a way of life.
Okay.
Every election campaign in the Caribbean using corrupt money. If you can find one that is clean, I want you to tell me. If I can't go back to certain islands in the Caribbean, you cause that.
Dr. Ferguson, it said, when I did your bio, it said that you have published certain papers. Can you just share with us what are some of those significant papers that you have published, and what were the the focus? What were the focus of these?
The focus. There are a number of them. I have one. The basic book is one called "The Philosophy of Leading from Above the Line."
Okay.
Sharing with people and the world the underpinnings of the philosophy. So it's a short book, a small book.
Okay.
I have one I've written specifically on the business of purpose. The part of what we do in the program is to help people to discover why they're here in this world. Because you're here for a special reason. I don't know if you know what it is. I'm telling you, you're here for it. Every human being comes into the world with a message that is embedded in their DNA to do something unique and something special. And then when you don't do it, you've been very irresponsible to yourself and to life. If you want to excel in life, you have to discover what comes to you naturally. What is your calling? It's not what could make you a lot of money. It's what gives you joy. What gives you happiness. And is what allows you to contribute to this world that you are part of. And if you're not contributing, then you become a parasite in this world. Taken but not given. But not many human beings have discovered the purpose. And I believe we should spend a lot more time in our education system and in our parenting to introduce our young people to the concept of purpose. So I have a book on that. Helping people to discover their purpose and to know when they have discovered it. I have another book, I call it Thinking Aloud, where I outline the program, the basic tenets of the program in that book, to help people to know the process that we go through as we help people to go through a transformation. Because this program is about transforming people. So you come into the program one way, but when you come out at the other end, the hope is that you're a lot more conscientized as a human being. I have another book called A Letter from India. So I got invited to go to India many years ago, a few years ago. And I went to India and I spent a week with a Swami in his ashram in India.
Mm-hmm.
That was quite an eye-opening experience. And the book that I wrote is about the commonality that we share as human beings. All these big differences that we think we have among us, differences in religion, differences in culture, and they already exist. We have a commonality and we need to take time to understand that commonality. So people who come to my training come from all religions. I train Christians of every denomination. I train Hindus, I train Muslims, I train atheists. It doesn't matter what they have religion. And once you're a human being, you have the capacity to experience your conscience. And everybody could experience that conscience. So that book was intended as a book for humanity, because we could begin to understand each other. I have another book which is really on the facilitation. People often ask me, how does this work? How does this transformation happen? Sometimes I believe I'm not even sure, but I've tried to put that, the way I understand it, happens into a book.
Mm-hmm.
I have another one that I call It's one I did a column for a newspaper here in Trinidad for a number of years. So I wrote about 130 articles. And I brought these articles together in a book. And that was the book that the Arthur School of Business here used as their book for their training on lineage. And the final book I want to mention is a 3-volume book. It's called My Search for Understanding. It's my personal journey of trying to understand myself, of my own self-discovery, my own discovery of self-knowledge. And that book comes in 3 volumes. The first volume is on freedom. The second volume I call God, Spirituality, Morality, and Religion. How do we make sense of that whole very complex area that have so many people confused? I wish a lot of people just back away from. They're afraid. But I have a book I've written on that in my own search for. And the third in that 3-volume series is Purpose, Creativity, and the Human Potential. And this all has to do with my deep thoughts over a 10-year period that led me on that journey to understand it. So those are some of the books.
Dr. Ferguson, you know what is interesting here? I'm listening to you speak about your publications, and what jumps at me is that short bio I read of you in the beginning, which said that Dr. Ferguson is a leadership educator by choice and a scientist by training. How is it that all of the publications that you've outlined here have to do with the human element, and none of your works actually had to do with your area of training, your scientific, your scientific studies, your other scientific studies, I should say, because that element is also a science, although it's not a fixed science as you would find in the biological sciences and so on.
Let me tell you. Often when we have a discipline, we have a PhD in it, expected to remain there for the rest of your life. When I truly discovered my purpose, everything else had come to space. Purpose took over. And you occupy your head in a way that you are bound and compelled to write it. My writing of a scientific nature in my publication in journals, that happened up to 1997 or 98. I had a CV in those days that was 30-something pages long. Since I made my switch, I've not written a CV like that. My CV has come down to 1 page. So,
you mentioned a while ago about having traveled to India, and in that same bio, it mentions you as having traveled to 70 or so countries. What were most of these travels about, and what was the agenda with much of these travels?
My early travels were mostly related to my agricultural training. And those early travels took me to many remote places in the world. I've seen a lot of African countries, a lot of countries in Asia. I've seen most of the islands of the Pacific and the countries of the Pacific. I've traveled extensively in Central America and South America. I traveled in North America and Europe. And something happened during my travels. And as I look back at my early travels, I now realize that I had a desire from pretty early in life to get to understand humanity and to know humanity. And that knowledge is what is feeding a lot of the new work that I'm doing. I saw the back of countries. I saw the poorest country in the world. I lived and slept with some of the poorest people in the world. I've met people of every religion and lived with them in their communities. I've dined with the kings and queens of the world in many places. I've seen the extremes of the world. And with that understanding of humanity, that gives you an understanding of humanity that you don't have to guess. You know, because you've experienced humanity in this full diversity. And that's part of what has fed into this whole program that I'm doing, this whole philosophy that I'm doing now.
So this philosophy that you're doing now, presently, what are some of the things that you're involved in as it relates to the teaching of that philosophy? And so do you have any specific programs going on? Or
well, I do programs pre-COVID to in different places. I get called to do retreats and workshops. I got called to do one in Grenada recently, where they wanted to do it by Zoom. And I wasn't excited. Because that is not how we do this kind of work. So I'm hoping that I can do that sometime later. Last year, or just before COVID came, I was in Canada, Montreal.
Okay.
Doing training there.
Okay.
And early that year, I trained in the US. I was in Atlanta. I was training in Ashtabula up in Ohio, and I trained in, of course, I trained in the Southern African continent. I've done training in Latin America. I went to Costa Rica and did some training there. Plus every Caribbean island, I think I've been something.
So
and the clients have been,
go ahead.
Anybody, I do youth training, young people.
You said that you had the option of doing that training recently, but it was to be done by Zoom and you were not excited about it. What is it about doing virtual training you think that makes it so different from the actual hands-on training with people?
You see, I'm so sure training is the right word. And what we do is take people into an introspective mode deep within themselves.
Okay.
So that they discover themselves. So that the conscience becomes activated. And they can see themselves in a new way. So it's a very emotive type training.
Okay.
And this is a flat medium we're working with here now. And when you're training, you have a group of 15 people. You can't keep track of 15 people and their state by looking at the screen.
Okay.
People say, but you can do it. But I know what I'm trying to do. Yes, I can talk to people and they could take notes. But when in my training, I don't ask you, you don't take no notes. Because I want you to listen and process and analyze, and it goes within you. And you come alive to yourself. And that inner voice starts talking to you very loudly. And the transformation comes on.
So, in that, as part of that training, you say that it involves training people in leadership. But does it also include trainers, training people to train others?
Remember I told you we're trying to set up an institution?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The whole idea was to set up an institution so we can train trainers.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That is a primary reason.
Okay.
Because you need to immerse people in an introspective environment for a while. Because part of what happens during the training is that the trainer, trains without words, without necessarily speaking words. In that you help people by being who you are. And that authenticity has to come out. So it's a different kind of training.
It surely is a different kind of training to the mainstream kind of training that we've been accustomed to when we hear about leadership training and so on. I can now begin to better appreciate why you say that what passes for leadership training oftentimes is actually management training and the distinction between the two. Yeah. Could you elaborate more on what really distinguishes leadership training from, basically management training?
Who's a leader? A leader is one who can command, or a leader is one who is admired, respected, and trusted. And people must do that voluntarily. A manager is one who is the boss. He's in charge. And he has the power of his position to manage. A leader has only the power of his leadership, the extent to which people can see him, can respect him in a voluntary way. Voluntary. So you could be head of an organization and don't lead anybody. I'm sure you're familiar with people who are head of organization and the whole staff complaining bitterly about that person. They're leading nobody, but they might call themselves the leader. So leadership is not a position. It is never a position. So you never talk about, if you want to be correct, you never talk about a leadership position. You talk about a position from which leadership is expected. And when that leadership doesn't come, that person don't ever win the respect and trust of his employees. So therefore he never has followers. We often misuse the term leadership in our society. We confuse leadership and management.
Now, we confuse leadership with management. You speak about the whole element of trust, and more or less said that people have to be, as a leader, people have to buy into whatever it is that you're driving voluntarily.
Yeah.
How critical is that to the whole element of leadership, and to the issue of, as mentioned in your above the line philosophy, when you speak about the 5 sources of inner power, to that issue of emotional mastery and understanding change and knowledge empowerment?
You win trust on the basis of the characteristics that you display in your life. And if you project characteristics of dishonesty, Why should somebody trust you? So a lot of people who walk around calling themselves leaders, they're not leading anybody, and quite often they're not leading nobody.
I don't know.
Huh?
You know, there's certain things that come into mind with these comments that you're making. You know.
No, you're trying to pull me into the pull. I'm not going to pull.
I'm not. I'm not going to go there. I'm deliberately avoiding going down that road. But you see, the things that you are saying, right, the things that you are speaking to, and because political leadership is so critical to every element and every aspect of national, regional development, and in many instances, personal development, and the opportunities that are available to the citizenry, right? I mean, I cannot help but think about these things as you're raising these issues.
I give you the absolute.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to be absolute.
Mm.
Like you might have a choice between two individuals to select one of the two.
Mm.
And you can select the one that you think will be honest and do a good job. Right? So you trust that individual when they get into government to do a good job. But when they get into government, you find they're doing the same rubbish, they're just as corrupt. You stop trusting them.
Mm.
And they've lost your respect. So they're no longer your leader.
Mm-hmm. I got you.
Huh?
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm. No, perfect. I don't think perfection really exists in the human domain. So.
Well, I've never met one. Perfect.
No.
I am not perfect.
No, we're not. Yeah.
Well, it's a very simple concept that we share.
Yeah.
And the real issue is that you have to continue to strive to become better. You will never become perfect.
No.
So what we put before people is that you have to strive.
Mm-hmm.
And always trying to become a better human being, because that's how you become a better human being.
Sure.
Wow.
So leading from above the line is about striving, be above that moral line. From wherever you are.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're striving, then you understand what you're talking about.
Yeah. You know,
You mentioned the 5 sources of power a while ago.
Yes.
Let me just indicate how that comes.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, to leadership development is about self-development.
Mm-hmm.
Self-development comes from having greater conscious control over your behaviors. And that calls for inner strength. And we say that there are 5 sources from which you can draw that power to become stronger. One is to become more conscious of principle. Principle being the things that make you human, the things that anchor your life, the values and the principles by which we strive to live. So when you become more conscious of principle, it becomes a strength. The second one I mentioned already, which is purpose. Mm-hmm. Knowing why you're here in the world and discovering and working on your purpose is a powerful source of strength. The third one is emotional mastery. Knowing your emotions and knowing that you can manage your emotions and seeking to bring your emotions under control so that you don't behave as less than human. And a lot of human beings behave like animals. but you want to behave like a real human being, and you have the capacity to do that. The fourth source of power is understanding change. We live in a world that is continuously changing, and you don't have the power to stop it, but you have the ability to understand it. And when you can understand the world, the changing world around you, it becomes a source of power because you're better able to deal with the world around you. And the fifth source of power is knowledge empowerment. Knowing and having the knowledge to help you to live a more fulfilled life, especially the knowledge in your area of purpose. And when you can bring these five sources of power, you can become hypercharged as a human being with tremendous inner strength. And all of that propels you to be able to lead from above the line.
Oh, well. Dr. Ferguson, our technical operator, he is one who is very philosophical also. Actually, he is the owner, manager, whatever you want to call it, of this GEM FM network. He's John Calliste. And
I see this guy sitting with our nice tropical scenery behind him.
Yeah.
But I'm sure he's not in the tropics. He's in the tropics?
No, man, in Canada.
I know he's in the snow in Canada.
Yeah, that's why he has that. He's trying to
camouflaging.
soften the coldness.
I wonder why he tried to mislead me.
It's his way of addressing the cold, that environment. You know, when he puts up that, he feels a little warmer. Yeah, but he wants to come in here and to make a contribution or to ask a question or something. But
I would love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
John, I'm ready for you.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm just sitting here at the feet of a great man. I never heard of you.
I'm just a human being.
Yeah, but
in
you
my
know,
life and in my classroom, everybody addresses me as just Theo.
Theo. All right. But you know, as life is, we all look at. I guess you mentioned about leadership, and you know, I can't help but saying that leadership and management, the difference. You know, managers try to create followers, and leadership make leaders. You know, and you mentioned about creating a training for leaders to lead. You know, it's really interesting how you make mention about trust and so someone to really trust you, so they could actually indirectly lead you. And people are gravitating to leadership because of the fruit that they bear. You know, and what they have to offer to society. And you know, I'm oftentimes, even within my own structure here, I do not seem to try to manage people as England, you know. I let people be. I was sharing with Raphael this week. I don't believe in putting committees together. I said to someone, you do this and I get it done, you know. You do that and you get it done. You find a way to having it done the best way you can, you know. And you get better results from people who bring out the gifting in them to do what they have to do. And you know, I'm listening to you, and I'll be like a sponge, just soaking up all the things you're saying there, because I haven't heard. I mean, apart from Miles Monroe speaking and stuff, and Les Berger, all those people listen to. I'm listening to you here. I'm thinking, my goodness, you know, a lot of what you're saying, I often say to people a lot of stuff, but I don't know how much trouble you could get in after this, because you make some points there. I just asking me. I said to Raphael, perhaps he might get in trouble. like the president asked to in the country it was. If you're in Greenland now, perhaps the Prime Minister, someone will be taking note of what you have just said a while ago, you know, about corruption and leadership. You know? So
I don't get into that.
Yeah.
I consider the Prime Minister of Grenada my friend, but I won't get into that.
I know. You know, I know you don't want to get into politics, but some of these statements that been made. It's obvious. A lot of people pay attention to things that leaders, with so-called leaders, do, and we judge them by the fruits they bear. And the other thing you make mention of was very interesting because people often ask me if there's, when I start doing the magazine, and if there's money in it, so it's making money out of it. My purpose doesn't, it's not about money. It's fulfilling a dream, and I'm living the dream. I'm doing what I wanted to do. I'm doing the things I really want to do, and trying to empower other people as well.
What's your magazine?
Genesis magazine.
Genesis.
Yeah, it's really a motivational magazine. Trying to empower people and try to bring out the best and the gifting people that have something to do, something to say. For me, with Pablo, for example, I had him on the show as a guest, and while over the course of a 6 weeks period, I noticed that there is something greater in him that need to come out. There is something trapped in him. So I one evening driving from work, and I called him and said, Pablo, will you be interested in doing a show by yourself? And he said, I don't know. I said, I think you have greatness in you. I need to bring it out. And, he started a show called Comfort Zone. And this show is one of our best shows on Gem FM radio. There's another lady, I have here. And again, she has greatness in her too. So as a leader, you see things in people. And like you said, you cannot do a virtual training because you can't interact in a personal with people, and you could identify people and say, look, this is that and this is that. But when you have a personal touch, it 2 ways for me. I haven't met Pablo in person up to now, but by interacting over a period of time, I was able to draw out from him the things that I saw that he have in him that could make him, I could pull out the gifting that he have. And many people have called me and tell me, this Pablo guy, he's special. He has something in him. I love his show. I love his way he's doing things. And that's something that was trapped in him for a while. But now he's bringing it out. So for me, it's bringing out gifting. It's creating that space that people could come out and be themselves and do what they really want to do. It's not about money. Quite often on some jobs you go, people say, I want more money. And I ask, how much knowledge have you gained since you've been here? How much knowledge do you have about what you're doing? So don't walk up, like my daughter, I say, don't worry about money. Try to get knowledge. Try to increase your knowledge. Improve yourself. Work on you. Become the better you. And once you do that, right, you'll find people that being gravitated to you because you have more knowledge to share, and they'll pay you for the knowledge. They'll pay you for the knowledge. It's not about you going to look for money because you'll never find it. You'll never find enough of it. But get more knowledge. And to me, that is key. And you make mention about knowledge here, empowering yourself. Yeah.
So, Dr. Ferguson?
Yeah.
I know do you realize that you've been with us for over 90 minutes now? Do you realize that you've been with us for over 90 minutes?
When I do the program, we have long days.
You have long days.
Because our full transformation program is a 90 program.
Okay, it's a 90 program. Okay.
Residential.
Okay.
And so we do long sessions.
Oh, so you do, okay.
So you're just cruising now?
Typically, how long would one session be?
Oh, hour and a half. We take a break every now and then.
Okay. Well, we didn't take any breaks today. We went straight.
But this is for me very normal. Normal chat.
But it was very good having you, and I mean there were some serious lessons that have come there. I can tell you that I will be listening that program over again. I usually upload it on YouTube and share it around with a number of people. And there are some very salient points that you have made here this evening. I mean, very early, the approaches that you took in terms of addressing some of the things. And based on the first half an hour or the first 15 or 20 minutes of this program every afternoon really features a small element, a small motivational element. And that first part of our conversation really brought me back to some of the things that come out of those conversations that we have at the beginning of this program, because it's all to do about people finding themselves, people going the extra mile, people being able to identify, or not just identify, but when you begin to do things, then certain other things begin to happen for you. You know, and the first stories that you shared here this afternoon was really evidence of that. The fact that you just walked into the principal's office and said to him, listen, this is my situation, and this is what my desire is, and how it worked out for you. The fact that you sat down and wrote a letter to an institution in England, right? And was able to get your books that way. And that's one of the things about us as people generally. Whenever we hit a roadblock, we tend to throw our hands up in the air, and we tend to just complain about what the restrictions are and I can tell you I've been very guilty of that, you know.
You like to blame the government, they ain't helping me.
You know, and that's some of the things. So there's some lessons in there, and I can tell you I'll be cutting some of those clips, you know, that's those short ones, and so that I can share them with people, so it can be an enlightener. It can shine light in a dark corner.
Are you going to send me those?
I'm going to send them to you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to send them to you, definitely. And you will be getting the full conversation that we have here. You are going to get that too.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I'm going
Nobody
to
asked me to, I'm going to record it, let's say.
Yeah. Definitely, I'm going to send that to you also. Yeah. So if we want to get you to do a particular line of training with an entity in Grenada, young people or whoever, what is the process and what is involved in getting you to do that?
Contact me, and you have to meet the cost.
Okay.
I don't have, at the moment, I don't have funds. There was a time I had funds to support training. Once you can meet the cost and the cost of my accommodation in Grenada, we're in business.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You won't take, and Grenada is my home. I'm always excited about going back to Grenada.
About coming home, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've made various attempts to do a lot more training in Grenada, but somehow it doesn't get aborted very quickly. But we have to find ways. You see, you have to understand, Pablo, that we live in a world in which people are very money focused. And if I go to Grenada to do training to help make people millionaires, there'll be no shortage of people to come and do the training. But when you come to do this kind of program, people tend not to understand what it means for them. So that has to be promoted very carefully. Because you get all the excuses in the world, you're busy, they don't have time, and they give you a lot of reasons. So it takes a little effort to get people into the training room. So I always say, and at the end of it, they're going to be very happy. You know, it takes a little effort to get them to start the process.
I know. Yeah, go ahead.
I've done some couple of one days at Mount Hartman Not Hartman, Mount what's the name of Hugh Donald's place.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I
you
know,
forget the name too?
I know what you're speaking about. Yeah, that's in Bolio.
St. Paul's.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I did some training sessions there.
Okay. Okay.
I used to do some training with the Chamber of Commerce when Pat Derricks
Yeah.
was in charge.
Oh, okay. Right.
We trained a number of businessmen and various other people.
Okay. Dr. Ferguson, in order to get to that particular state, developing that, and this may be my last question before we go to closing remarks, to get to that state of developing that above the line mindset, is there a particular extent, or is there a particular period of training that need to be gone into to get to that position?
Every individual is different.
Okay.
So you don't get the same output from every individual when you do training.
Okay.
Some will get the message early and you'll see tremendous progress. Some people are very slow to get a message. And there's some people that even go through the whole program, but they only get a message 3 months after they finish the program. They say, oh! And then when you meet them, they say, I get it now. So it depends on the individual very much. You can't put it in that kind of way. But the whole idea is to start a process within you as an individual. And it's really a process of self-discovery, understanding yourself better. You see, when we go to school, a whole education system is about giving us worldly knowledge, or external knowledge. We learn about everything in the world. But we don't learn about ourselves. We're not introduced to ourselves. It was very late in life I got to know myself. But I was fully knowledgeable about the world and what's happening out there. But the process of getting to know yourself is already an eye-opener. Could be a bit painful, but it clears up. It clears up and takes away a lot of your doubts and your misconceptions of life, and you already come to see your face. Like getting close to see the face of God. That's when you see yourself, you discover that there's God in you. Yeah. And it's a very enlightening process. And you have to do the effort. The effort is not mine. It's not me to take you there. As I tell my participants, you have to take yourself. So don't blame me when you finish. I didn't take you there. I'm giving you the tools to get there. You have to take yourself on that journey. So, and that's where introspection becomes a powerful tool that you have to apply even after you've completed the course. Now, during the course, we do a lot of what I call a lot of introspection, but I take you into the introspection. When we finish the training, I'm not there. You have to take yourself in. So you have to develop that discipline to do self-introspection.
Yeah. Very well. Yeah.
So, but I've seen human beings undergo dramatic change and dramatic transformation. And one of my biggest joys, I was to meet people 3, 4, 5 years after they've been through the program. And I haven't seen them for 5 years.
Okay.
And they come up to me and say, you know, I was in one of your sessions. I did that training program with you. And I want you to let you know how much it has helped me in my life. I want to know how much it will help me to become a better parent. That's one of the things that happen. Because when you become better, your parenting just gets better. So until if your children, and if you're not leading your children, that means the children have to respect you, they have to trust you, and to admire you. If you're not doing that, the children, they go find somebody else to do it. And they mightn't take them wrong the right direction. And parents must never lose the respect of the children. There are many ways you can benefit from a program like this. Many different. And in every domain of your life, whether in your church, whether you're involved in sports, whether it's your school or workplace, I hope you can benefit. Because when you become better, everybody around you become better. And when I train corporations, and they give me the stuff, I say, the beneficiaries of this training is not the organization only. But the beneficiaries are going to be everything that this person is involved in, every organization.
Yeah.
Become the beneficiary.
So true. So true.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
And one last thing, this program not for just one or two people. People from a certain region of the world, or people of a certain skin color. We do this program no matter who you are. And I tell people the white folks need it just as much. And we work with everybody. Everybody. If we've been relating, we train a lot of clergy in our program. We train bishops, we train priests, we train pastors, we train pundits, and we train Muslim clerics. Because what we're doing is so fundamental to the human being, the religion doesn't.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ferguson. You know, this has been a training session here this afternoon. This wasn't a regular program. That was a training session. Thank you very much for that free session this afternoon.
Well, my joy to have get the opportunity to chat with you and to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm available for future sessions if you're so interested.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, most definitely. It was a pleasure having you. Any parting words? Because I'm sure your friend is listening. You know, I'm sure your friend Bobby Benjamin is listening.
Oh, Bobby.
Yes, Bobby.
I spoke to him last night.
Yeah.
I think so.
Oh yeah, I think his birthday was yesterday.
Oh, I didn't realize. How did birthday over here? I thought he had it not too long ago.
Yeah, his birthday was yesterday. Yeah. So any parting words before you depart?
Folks, my parting words will be this. No matter where you are in your life, you can become better. There's room to become better. And the biggest challenge that most of us have as human beings is getting past our ego that tells us we are perfect. I repeat this, I've never met the perfect human being, but I've met a lot of people who think they're perfect. And if you think you're perfect, you can't grow. There's nothing to improve. But a little bit of humility could work wonders for you to become a better human being. If you can acknowledge that you're not perfect, there might be some vulnerabilities and some weaknesses in your life. So this program will offer it to everybody, even those who think they're perfect and they don't need it. When you come to the program, that's when you discover. So all those listening, think about that. And I'll be happy to be in a discussion, or I'll be happy to see some of you all in my training program somewhere, sometime. So thank you for having me. It has been a wonderful evening. I enjoyed it.
Yes, Dr. Ferguson, I most so enjoyed it, and we've had some people following us in the shout box, and there's some who saying you always. They didn't use the word thinking outside the box. They say you plot your own course, you know. We see people shouting, saying "Amen" here. Who saying I totally agree. Who say this is so true. Who says the doctor is speaking the truth for sure. Who says always blazing his own paths, and paying it forward. Fascinating story, and so this is so true. Some people think everything will just fall from the sky, it's just amazing.
But those folks, I want to say, want to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
We have a way in the Caribbean of looking backwards.
Mm-hmm.
We could write a lot of stories over the past. And the real stories that we have to write, the stories of the future. Because you cannot find the future in the past.
Amen.
So we have to become more forward thinking. We need a lot more of that. But we have to have that sense of personal independence to be able to do that. So let's not look backwards. The future is a beautiful feature that is out there, and I'm an optimist about the world. I'm an optimist about humanity. So let us move forward together.
Before you leave, though, there is one comment that I would like you to to respond to, if you may. That comment says, "This is so not fair. Grenada gave him so much. What did he do for Grenada? Nothing. Now he wants poor people to pay him." How do you respond to that?
I'm telling you, I don't earn anything from my training. I'm free. Got it?
Okay.
Well, if you come to my training, you have to pay for your accommodation. That money will come to me.
Okay.
And other costs.
Okay.
I am free. And I was about to go back to the Madelbaum story. I'll leave that there. Sometimes when you're trying to offer help,
right.
Have you ever seen a Grenadian, because you're overseas long, when you go home, they tell you you're a foreigner?
Mm-hmm.
It's painful.
I know.
You know? It's a very painful experience.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And the other thing I say is this. We as human beings become too nationalistic. We tend to focus ourselves and our lives purely on what happens within national boundaries. Remember, we are human beings living in the world. The world belongs to all of us. And we have the opportunity to go out and explore this world and claim it. So let us not trap ourselves in a little claustrophobic box when the world is waiting for us to grow and to develop. So don't be afraid to explore the world. Don't be afraid to travel the world and sell your services and share yourself with the rest of the world. Grenada is a small part of your life. That's something I learned very early. And I've raised my children to live in the world. And that's why they've been able to achieve, to get careers that have made them international citizens. You can't do that just within a limited environment. I said that in Barbados at a breakfast meeting some years ago. They nearly killed my brother. I said you have to let people, free the people to explore the world. It belongs to all of us. Don't let the Europeans explore the world and we keeping ourselves quiet.
Yes.
Huh? They're all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
We must do the same. belongs to all of us.
Yeah.
And let us service the people of the world. And the world has given us a lot also. Most of the knowledge that we have didn't come from Grenada.
Yeah, definitely.
We learned our knowledge in the world. We have to give back to the world. And don't be afraid. So, folks, that if we pursue that route, we become very xenophobic. And that is the fastest way to suppress the development of your people.
All right.
We have a world that we own. All of us own it.
Yeah.
Let us all enjoy it.
Right. Okay, Dr. Ferguson, thank you very much for joining us here this afternoon on the Comfort Zone. I have to thank once again, first and foremost, Brother John Calliste for allowing me, enabling me to be doing what I'm doing here on GMFM. And I have to specifically thank Mr. Bobby Benjamin for making that connection with you so that we could begin to have that behind the scenes conversation, which resulted in us having you here this afternoon on the Comfort Zone. It really was a pleasure having you, and I expect that we shall have you again sometime at some other time. And all the best, and all the best with your training and the development of your institution.
Well, I need that.
Yes, yes.
But thanks, I really enjoyed chatting with you all.
Okay.
And for the audience listening there.
Yeah.
Thanks for giving me this opportunity. Thanks for tuning in.
Yes. Yes.
And I really hope that wonderful things can happen.
Yeah. Awesome.
And if they have any questions, they can send it to you.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what the questions, I'm a guy who can deal with both the positive and the negatives. That don't faze me.
Yeah, I know.
So
Okay.
speak your mind, speak the truth.
Right.
Let's see how we could go forward together.
All right. Okay, Dr. Ferguson. So, this is where we bring a wrap on the Comfort Zone for this afternoon. I want to say thank you to those who joined us and who stayed with us throughout. Remember, we continue here again next week, but on GMFM, we're not through for the day, because later this evening at 8 o'clock Grenada time, we'll be having Miss Rachel Roberts joining us. She is the present President General of the Public Workers Union, and she is going up again for office. The elections is supposed to be, I believe, sometime in April. She'll be speaking about that, and she'll be speaking about the whole issue with the Public Workers Union, the unions in general in the country, the situation in terms of that negotiation with government for that 4% increase, and all that has to do with industrial matters in the country. So join us, 8 p.m. this evening for Talking Point, the second edition for this weekend. All right? Wonderful. So bye, everybody. Brother John?
Yes, sir. I will just, before we go, Doctor said something a while ago. He said this one thing. I have it in a different way. I said here in an article I posted last week, a fool will lose the future holding on to yesterday, in the present hoping for the future, while living in the present. So, it's something I wrote in a whole article. I just want to highlight that because you said that, we want to live in the future, but we live in the past. You can't look in the rearview mirror to go forward. It's never going to happen, So
you're a wise man. That's all I can say.
Thank you very much. If we really want to go forward,
I'm going to leave you guys now.
Yes.
Okay, then. Bye.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so
All right.
much. Yeah. This has been a real good piece, Pablo. Trust me. I want to play that song before we go, Pablo. The Bonnie Wheeler.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Yeah, this one was specially selected to you, because I think that it would fit right in with the conversation we have in this evening.
Right. Oops, what did happen here? Okay. Sorry.
Right here in Ethiopia. Oh, what a glorious morning when we shall leave out of Babylon. There shall be singing, dancing, and rejoicing with the dawn of the rising sun. And all the Africans home and abroad, just like the Israelites, we shall be glad to leave our worries, trials, and crosses here in Jamaica. Come along, everybody. Come and hear what I have to say. Come and listen, and I will tell you what is the talk of the town today. And to every corner that you may walk, you see a group of people walk. They're not skylarking, they're talking about what's happening here in Jamaica. I am not joking, I'm talking about what's happening here in Jamaica. They're not skylarking, they're talking about what's happening here in Jamaica. I am not joking, I'm talking about what's happening here in Jamaica.
Yes.
They're not skylarking, they're talking about what's happening here in Jamaica.
Well, we're not joking here in Jamaica Famida. We're talking tonight with Miss Rachel on what happened in Grenada. And a lot of times, Pablo is in Grenada. Many of our people in Grenada. Even I'm in Toronto, Delbert says, we're working in the United States, but you live in Grenada. And I'm working in Toronto, but I live in Grenada. People said, and I often hear it said that, well, you guys don't know what's going on in Grenada. You guys outside, and you hear the minister said the same thing. And then you have other ministers saying, we in the diaspora is very important to Grenada. Is the 7th constituency, you know, the 14th constituency, 16th constituency, right, in Grenada, the diaspora. And so the controversial ideas along which the different politicians wage the claim against us in the diaspora. And we have to be able to continue to prove that we not just living abroad, but we are working and living in Grenada. Our contribution out here, whether financial or otherwise, is in the development of Grenada, like it or not. So the whole notion of the JCBs, and so on, how they call us when we just come back, we are very much in touch with what is going on in Grenada, even than more Grenadian people. Because sometimes I tell people, folks tell things are going on in Grenada, say, where you get that from? From Grenada. You haven't been there, you know. I've have contacts. I've been listening to politicians, reading the newspaper in Grenada as anybody else does in Grenada. You know, and so you keep in touch with Grenada. You never leave Grenada, and for people to make those kind of remarks, you know, because that's where Mr. Theodore coming from. We are part and parcel of the entire system. We never left the system. It's still with us. So all things politics, whether you like it or not, it's still part of us. You know. So I'm gonna keep on doing what I'm doing out here. You know, and I wouldn't change anything for that. I'm going to continue pushing Grenada in any direction and every direction where I go. Pull it with me, you know. So, Pablo.
But Brother John, I listening to Dr. Ferguson there, and he talking about this above the line, you know, philosophy and so on, what it entails, and all I'm seeing is our present situation and what we have to be dealing with and what we actually dealing with. And when you speak about the whole element of corruption, you know, and how it has no place in the whole leadership scenario.
Yes.
And we see how prevalent corruption is out here, the nepotism and all that goes with it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Mr. Theodore sees it. He sees it. He knows it. He knows it. He knows it. You know,
and that's the reason. And that's the reason why, after working with the Caribbean Central Bank and being out there, having all the perks and so on, and rubbing shoulders with all the decision makers throughout the Caribbean region, the politicians and so, he chose to just leave them alone and to go back to teaching and to nurturing students and stuff, because he has a conscience.
Yeah.
And our politicians generally don't have any conscience.
Even though
that is the driving principle. That's one of the driving principles, you know, in this whole above the line philosophy.
Yeah. And you know something, Pablo, when one look at the present state of our economies in the Caribbean and our leaders, and then you look at what Grenada has done for 4.5 years of the revolution, you ask the question, here are some young men in the 30s, 20s, and teens, you know, the contribution they have made with a development agenda in 4.5 years. Was able to do so much in 4.5 years. Pack. And you have governments coming thereafter. And was able to make that push, that pack inside there. You know, and even at this present time, we hear nothing, a deaf silence about the economic development agenda for Grenada. When are we going to hear it? On our anniversary, 47 years of independence. Not one word of a development agenda as to where we're going to be in 5 years, so people will be excited about the future of tomorrow. There's no hope given to us for what to look forward to for the next 5 years. What from the last election to now? What was the hope? The hope was we will get oil. Where is it? The hope that a pension plan will be good for teachers. Where is it? We still have teachers fighting for 4%. And then up came WRB and we find $63 million to give it to them. Can we not find another $63 million from the genie bottle? Wherever it came from? You know? So the hopelessness is perpetrated by the powers that be. People have no hope. What am I looking forward to? As a nation, what am I looking forward to? Then you say, okay, now don't ask what the country could do for you, but ask what it could do for your country. All right. Where am I going to start? What is gender working towards help my country with? Just send money to Grenada? What am I financing? What am I helping with? How do I draw from it? If the government doesn't have an agenda. What capital projects am I looking forward to? What educational program I have to look forward to help with? Okay, I should start a school, start a clinic, And then when people try to do that, you have to be in some line or other with some political movement. It doesn't make sense. So.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
That's it. That's a wrap for this afternoon. We said that before, but and before I go, Brother John, you notice it's like we planned that this evening with this shade of blue.
Mm-hmm. I know.
You know what I mean?
It's, I guess the email was well received.
We both wearing the same shade of blue this afternoon.
Yeah, I see.
About it.
I know, eh?
Anyway.
Yes.
See you later.
All right, one love. Have a blessed evening, everyone. God bless. See you on the top.